Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. So excited to see you guys here for another Power Shot from the Career Winners Circle. I'm Tammy Alvarez, and the creator of the Career Winners Circle. And today we are going to talk about how do you create a resume that really gets you in the door if you've never done the job before. So tell me if this sounds familiar. You are sick and tired of what you're doing, and you're over it. And you finally decide that, okay, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to do something exciting. I'm going to do something that I love. And then you do your research and you think about it and you finally make a decision that, yes, this is the way I'm going to go. And then you look at your resume and you're like, oh shit, now what do I do? Because when you look at your resume and you look at your experience, there's nothing that matches. And so you start to panic. And then you start looking at job postings and you see all the list of things that you have to do. And you're like, I know I can do this, but I've never actually done it before. So how do you get that across? How do you get people who are like, I need, a purple squirrel that does this every Wednesday to realizing that you are actually the perfect candidate for what they're looking for? And that's what I want to talk to you about today is absolutely how you do that. And before I go into the 5 steps that I want to share with you, so make sure you have a pen and paper handy so you can write these down, I want to share Jack's story with you because Jack was in a very similar situation, who's a client of mine. And before he started working with me, he came from the education sector and wanted to move to nonprofit. And so he was very interested in doing grant writing and researching and finally having a job that he was excited about, that he could feel a sense of purpose and fulfillment and all the things that so many of us want to be able to do. And so he did what I think a lot of you are doing. And if you're with me on the live session today, in the chat window, tell me if this sounds familiar. So what he did is he did some research, got a general idea of what he was looking to do and what they wanted, and then put a few keywords into his resume randomly, and then tried to make up for the difference in experience in his cover letter. So for those of you that are live, tell me if you've tried this trick before, figuring, well, I'll explain everything in the cover letter, and then when they see my resume, it'll all make sense. And that is absolutely the worst thing you can do. So he spent about 4 months trying to do it this way. And guess where he ended up? With absolutely nothing. He got 0 hits. He had 0 resume or 0 interview requests. I mean, it was just a colossal waste of time. And so he came to me and he's like, all right, what am I doing wrong? How do I play this game? And all of those things. And so I want to talk to you today about the 5 things that he started to do differently that positioned him perfectly for that role in nonprofit that he wanted. And after he did these 5 things, guess what? He landed his dream job in 2 months. That's all it took. So I want to share with you these things and how to do them, why they're important, so you can start to incorporate some of these ideas and some of these thought processes in your career pivot. All right, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is to look at a lot of job openings that are for the role that you're interested in. And I want you to look at things from multiple sectors, multiple geographies, and get as diverse as you can, because what you'll find when you start to look at things, and I'm talking about, 30, 40 job openings. So look as many as you can and start to find the commonalities. Because what you'll see is that if you decide, okay, I want to pivot into this industry doing this type of role, that when you start to see a wide example of what they all are, you're like, okay, 80% of this is really the same in all of the different job descriptions. And then you get that 20% variance for company specifics or geography or sector. And so the more you educate yourself, the more research you do, and the bigger sample population you have to work within, the more refined you are going to be able to get your resume so you have that 80% in your head. So like, all right, out of all of these, here's the stuff that everybody seems to want. The next thing you want to do is you want to become part of that community. So if you're pivoting to a role in an industry that you've never been in before, guess what? You don't have a ton of friends that are doing that. And so you don't have the 10, 15, 20 years of experience and that domain knowledge that a lot of people who have been in the industry for a long time come with. And you want to be able to get that quickly. And so what I want you to do is to turn into a professional. And when you do that, find out where these people are hanging out. So let's say you want to be a project manager for the energy industry. Well, go find out where all of those people are having their conversations on discussion boards, on LinkedIn. Quora is a great place to look, industry publications, industry websites. So really start to immerse yourself in the conversation, but only as a cyber stalker. What I want you to do is just understand, what are they talking about? What are they worried about? What kind of problems are they trying to solve? What types of win are they celebrating? And when you spend a couple days just looking through the dialogue, and what's going on currently, and maybe going back a little bit, all of a sudden, again, you're going to start to pick up those themes. You're going to start to pick up, oh, okay, so this is the kind of stuff that's really an opportunity or an obstacle for the type of role that I want to have. And then you can start to think like an insider versus I want to learn on the job, right? So you start to get that context. Then the third thing I want you to do is to get out there and talk to people. So now you've got your analysis, you know what those job requirements want and what that 80% is. You've watched the conversation enough to get a sense of where things are going. Now you need to get into action and start to talk to people. And start to talk to people that are in those roles so you can ask them the good questions. So for example, let's say you've got your 80% job description, you know your experience, and you know the problems that particular industry or role are facing. When you start to speak to people, the types of questions you want to ask are, okay, so I know that, this industry is facing this problem. My experience is here. How do you think that translates? Or what types of things would be most important to solve some of these problems in this particular industry or in this particular role? Or what are the best growth opportunities for this segment? So when you start to get yourself educated first, then you can start to have really good conversations and have people help you put the pieces together, and they don't even know that they're doing it. And so step 3 is to really have those really good informational conversations with people that are already doing the job that you love and try to understand where your background can fit. And then once you do that, you want to basically rewrite that resume, really holding on to and accentuating all of what I call the MVP, which is the most valuable player, right? So, the MVP is the most valuable player, but I want to change that into the most valuable potential, because that's what you've got is potential. You can't say that I fixed this problem 17 times in my background. But what you can say is I know exactly what you're facing and I can solve it, and I can solve it creatively because of this. And those are the things that you want to start to think about in terms of rewriting your resume. You know that resume is 100% all about the value proposition and the results that you deliver more than the experience that you've had. And so now, armed with all of this information, you know what 80% of them are looking for, so you can get a good, general core resume written. You know what the problems are because you've observed the conversations that people are having. You know how you can fit because you've had the conversations with people who can help you connect the dots. And so now writing the resume is the easy part. It's like, oh, they always have these problems. I want to show in my resume exactly how I've solved these. It may be in a different industry and it may be in a different sector, but the problems are the same. And working through people and getting things to move forward is the same for any business. And so you're able to create a resume that really resonates with the issues and opportunities in your target market. And then the last thing you want to do is obviously get your resume out there, right? So you want to be able to submit them to job boards, but then get an internal sponsor. So if you watched a previous Power Shot, you'll know that job boards are great for research, but don't rely on them as your only source or your primary source of being able to land your next job, because you're going to be stuck for a long time if you do that. So what I want you to do is to make sure you get those submitted, get that new resume sent over to the people you've had informational interviews with to get their feedback. What do you think? And who do you think might be able to need my skills? And then make sure that you get those internal sponsors for those opportunities that you are interested in pursuing. So why does this work? Right? So first of all, when people hire from outside the industry, what they really, really want is somebody who can take an innovative and new approach to solving problems that they can't solve themselves. And I'm sure if you've been in your industry for longer than 5 minutes, you've heard the terms, well, because we've always done it that way, or this is how it's always been done. And so you get that inertia and you get that kind of mind-numbing lack of creativity when people are stuck in the same industry for a long time. So people purposely bring people in from the outside for a new perspective, because you don't have the biases, the assumptions, and the limiting beliefs that just naturally come with, with having experience in that industry. But you can't be a rookie. You've got to be able to understand where their needs are and be able to articulate and demonstrate in that resume that you've solved these problems 100 times before. The only difference is they happen to be a different shade of blue, right? And that's the only difference. And so to be able to do that, you need to do your homework. You need to understand the problems. You need to be able to bridge that gap in your resume and during your conversations on how this is no different than anything I've done before in terms of the core issues and opportunities that you're there to help them solve. And then get out there and work that network and really start to do hand-to-hand combat in terms of getting your resume and your interest in front of the right people. So again, let me go through those 5 steps to make sure you've written them down. And I want you to, pop me an email, let me know in the chat window which one you think you've been leaving out, right? So make sure that you're looking at a big amount of openings so you can get that 80% that everything has. Then make sure that you become part of the community so you can observe what they're talking about. Then I want you to talk to people and get into action and start to have them help you bridge what you do with what that industry needs so you can tell your story. Get that resume refined, and then ultimately start getting into action. Get your resume out there, whether it's through personal connections or job boards and then internal sponsors, however you need to do that. Jim, okay, 1 through 4. Okay, well, we got some work to do, and I'm sure I will see you, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so I want to make sure that you do this because every single step is important to having you show up as an industry expert that just needs to learn a little bit more about that particular role or area that you want to move into. And so I want you to have confidence in yourself that you can do this and you can really make sure that you show up well. And so because of that, what we've done now, and I think a lot of you know that I've always got something new up my sleeve. Just yesterday, I opened up the registration for Job Hunt Bootcamp. And I want you in it if you don't love your resume, if you don't love your LinkedIn profile, and if you're still a little bit wondering on how do I make this pivot. And so it's a 3-day boot camp. And so we meet 1 hour because I know you guys are busy, so I can't steal you for a full 3 hours. So the link is in this post, but I want you in that boot camp. You are going to learn how to create a rockstar resume. You are going to learn how to absolutely get that LinkedIn profile that has recruiters coming to you. So you're not out there saying, hey, will you talk to me? And then I'm going to show you some really key strategies that are going to help you move into action. And plus you get a really cool bonus. I give you an entire job hunting guide. That's a project plan for you. So you have your strategy, you know what you need to get done, and you can break that down into everyday habits and everyday routines to make sure that you land your dream job faster. So at the Career Winners Circle, we are 100% focused on helping business leaders make a big impact and love their jobs again. And this bootcamp is just one more way for us to be able to support you in your journey. So thanks again for watching today. I hope you have a great rest of the week and don't get stuck. So make sure that you do the work that you need to make sure you can get out of that crappy job and start doing something that you love again, because that's what makes it all worthwhile. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.